Supreme Leader holds the decisive authority. So it is Supreme Leader Moshtaba Khamenei that will eventually be who will eventually be deciding whether these peace talks will be held or not, whether Iran will be participating and will come on the negotiating table with the United States or not. And we're now being joined by Hassan Pirzada, who is a geopolitical strategist on the broadcast. He's joining us from Australia. Hassan, how do you see these developments? So much uncertainty looming over the second round of peace talks. We're just hours away from the ceasefire deadline. The US has also said that the US delegation will be traveling to Islamabad, but there's still no clarity from the Iranian side.
Thanks for having me. You're right. There is no clarity at the moment, but within the backdoors diplomacy, channels are very active at the moment, both in the corridors of power. The lines from Islamabad to Tehran are really busy. The Islamabad stage has been set for the both parties to be there. We are anticipating that Iranians will come through. There is an issue regarding the blockade, which is the last as you can say, maybe a contention issue between both parties, which is getting ironed out at the moment. So as soon as there is some clarity on that, they will travel. They have also advised that they're waiting for JD Vance to, be in Islamabad, and that they will only deal with JD Vance from the US side, being Pakistan as the main mediator within that. So the news from the Islamabad power circles is Iran is coming. We're also anticipating that within today, there might be a signage of extension on the ceasefire, and that might get announced as last time it was done by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. So there are anticipation on that as well, that this might get announced as well. But obviously things are very fluid, very speculative at the moment. So different kind of information coming up from all the sources.
All right, Hassan, do stay with us. We'll also tell our viewers about the hindrances to this peace deal. What are the sticking points? So the first and foremost is the control of Strait of Hormuz, which is the first and foremost sticking point between the two countries. The Iranian side has been claiming that they need the entire control of the Strait of Hormuz. They have been controlling it, and they will continue to control it. And they have also imposed tolls to pass from the Strait of Hormuz, which has not gone down well with the United States, and the United States is saying that the Strait of Hormuz must be free and there must not be any toll. Now, the US blockade of Iran ports is the second sticking point. So Iran has been demanding that the US blockade, the naval blockade of the Iranian ports must end, even for the talks to begin, even for the Iranian side to come to the negotiating table. They want this naval blockade that came into effect after the first round of talks failed. This blockade needs to end. This is what the Iranian side is demanding. Iran's missile arsenal is the sticking point number 3. So that is also one of the sticking points between the two countries. The missile arsenal of Iran, that also needs to be destroyed. That the US has been destroying, that we saw in the 40 days of war. And the Iran's enriched uranium, this is also the most important point, the most important sticking point, and this is exactly what led to the failure of the round 1 of talks, which was held in Islamabad, the enriched uranium. So US is demanding that the already enriched uranium must be handed over to the United States or must be sold by Iran, which Iran is not ready. And also the nuclear ambitions that Iran needs to give up, but Iran remains defiant that it will not give up its nuclear ambitions. And Hassan Pirzada continues to stay with us. Hassan, we were talking about the sticking points between the two countries that still remain. We saw how in the first round of talks it was the uranium enrichment that led to the collapse of the talks. But this time it's not just the uranium enrichment, but also the Strait of Hormuz, the control, and also the naval blockade.
Yes, there are plenty of issues, and the time of the ceasefire was just 2 weeks. If we go in the past, when the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was formulated, it took them 20 minutes of intense negotiation between these two parties to come upon a nuclear deal. So the time is of essence here, so time is very short. But I totally agree with it. The ultimate sticking point out of all this is the naval blockade at the moment. So I think so. U.S. Can give in, and it won't be framed as a concession, but I see as a de-escalation, strategic de-escalation, because that will help U.S. With the global energy stability. 20% of the oil flow through those strait, and the economic fallout is not just facing in the United States but everywhere else as well. That will also, lower the temperature as well with the Iran's other demands as well. So the nuclear enrichment, Iranians are not, really keen to give it to US. There is like two thoughts going on, where Iran has said that they will be able to change it to, the normal state of fuel within Iran, or they are able to handle it to 2 or 3 countries, which they have named. One of them is also Pakistan as well. So these are obviously key sticking point issues which need some more ironing out. But chairman of defense forces of Pakistan was in Iran for 3 days, and most of these issues have some understanding now, so we'll be able to see a much better solution this time around. If we're not able to get onto a permanent permanent agreement, I'm seeing that it can lead into an interim agreement for now, and then things can settle down, further, obviously, negotiation on these topics.
All right, Hassan, do stay with us. So, better solution is what is being expected from the second round of peace talks. In fact, we're getting some more news on this. And Pakistan is still hopeful of Islamabad peace talks. Pakistan feels it can bring Iran to the negotiating table. Senior Pakistani government source has said that Pakistan is confident it can get Iran to attend the talks with the United States. So that is what we're learning as per reports, that Pakistan is confident that Iran will come to the negotiating table. Iran will participate in the peace talks that are to be held in Islamabad, and Pakistan is also confident that it can bring and get Iran to attend the talks with the United States just hours before the ceasefire deadline ends. And Hassan Pirzada continues to stay with us. Hassan, let's also talk about the mistrust that prevails between the two countries, the trust deficit that is only increasing between the two countries. And if we talk particularly about Iran, Iran says that it has already been tricked twice by the United States when the diplomacy was underway, when the talks were on. That is when the United States decided to attack Iran. And hence, it is very skeptical this time, and it doesn't want to be tricked for the third time by the United States.
There's obviously trust deficit between these two countries. These two countries are at war. Iranians have faced the brunt of, U.S. military force. So there is obviously mistrust, and they have seen, things were going on better in Oman in those 3 rounds when Iranian foreign minister was dealing with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. And then, as they were anticipating a solution to this, a agreement to this, then the war gets started. So obviously there is a deep mistrust. They have lost their tier 1 leadership as well in Iran. So it is hard. Obviously, Pakistan is in the midst of all that, is playing a role to gap that, bridge that deficit. There is mistrust of both parties, but Pakistan is the conduit in between. And we have seen repeatedly from the Iranian officials when they have categorically say that Pakistan is the only mediator in these talks, although like Egypt and all these countries are helping it out, they have categorically pointed out that they only trust Pakistan. So I can see that the gap is there, but it will be bridged by Pakistan, as Pakistan is trying to do. And Pakistan established a very good communication line with the Trump administration. So there is a lot of trust and hope on Pakistan's shoulders at the moment, and Pakistan will come through that.
All right, Hassan, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. It remains to be seen what unfolds in the second round of peace talks in Islamabad, whether there will be peace or whether the war will resume.